Sorry from 17 once again. This is a balls deep of Watch Dogs. Let's get started, shall we? So this was... Uh-oh. So that's going to happen a lot, guys, because my pad is on its way out. People who are familiar with this, they understand. It's having a bad day. And I move a lot when I play, believe it or not. I'm quite a fidgety guy, and I hurt my back earlier this week, and it sucked. I wasn't able to really do anything, so I've done a lot of reading and writing and watching things, and I've been all pent up and wanting to get doing something. And I've not really been able to game all that much because it turns out sitting, you know, in certain postures for prolonged periods of time can irritate an injured back. Who knew? So I've been eager to get back, but it still feels a little tender. And I'm just a fidgety kind of guy. I'm restless. Constantly restless.
Like Tobias.
Okay.
By the same people.
I'm always talking to myself because I'm somehow moody and interesting.
He was high on medication or something. That guy has got to be careful.
Look, he's so unimpressed with his own words.
If they find him,
who knows what they'll do. Maybe they'll give me a lozenge for this throat. So this is Watch Dogs. I have to admit, I'm not digging it at all. I played it on the PC, and I didn't dig it there. I got it on console, thought I'd dig it, didn't. I was so stoked when this was being advertised by Ubisoft at E3. I thought it looked awesome, but I didn't realise just what they were trying to do with it. I thought it was going to be a more close-knit kind of game. I didn't realise they were going for a full sandbox, because if you remember in that original demo they did at E3, it seemed super highly detailed, highly focused, and I'm just going to have to turn this down a little bit. So it made me think that it wasn't going to be completely GTA up the arse. It made me think that maybe it was going to be, you know, closer to maybe how Hitman is handled, where you're in sandboxy environments. So that's where we want to go. Let's add a waypoint. And I was hoping, devoutly wishing, that that was going to be the case. And it isn't. It's a sandbox game. For all intents and purposes, it's a sandbox game. And how long have you been playing sandbox games for now is the real question. And these cars control very strangely. They seem to have a lot more weight than you'd think they would have. So my answer is simple. I've been playing these kind of games since the original GTA. I played the original GTA when I wasn't even old enough to do it. And I just used to take cars to that crusher and crush them. That's all I used to do. I was a kid, I was an idiot, it amused me. And from then on, I played every single one. You know, all the GTAs, all the clones that turned up in the wake of GTA's success. You know, all the way into this generation. And there's been a lot. And at this moment in time, I can safely say, I'm done. Because I find them unbearably boring now. And you might be thinking, well, this has got all these interesting things like hacking traffic lights to cause smash-ups like this. Oh, wow. Good driving, guys. And it does have a lot of interesting hooks, but I think every hook this game has would be more interesting in an actual game, rather than in a big sandbox where none of these mechanics are able to really be fully explored, and all of them have to be of a sub-level of the highest of qualities, because it's just the nature of the beast. You can't do everything perfectly. You know, you either do one thing, focus it, get it sharp, or you do lots of things that will undoubtedly suffer because of how spread thin you are.
I was putting a lot of faith in this legend.
But there's...
And Tobias was pretty spooked by it. I'm not interested in the...
I'll continue the tangent once he's done.
If it helps me get Nikki, then I'll use it.
Like, where is this camera at this point? Whose cameras are we using at that point? Like, is there a drone, a military drone that we're hacking into?
Did you find Tobias?
I did.
And?
We played poker, had a nice talk.
What did he say?
Clara. it's
Clara.
real.
I told you. Don't go in without me. I'm on my way.
Don't worry. I still have to restore the power, and then we have to find an entrance. I'll see you soon.
So I must admit, after a few cutscenes I've been skipping them, because I think this game, story-wise, is horrendous. I think it had the potential to have something really evocative, moody, and almost sentimental at, you know, the loss and the melancholy of somebody who's destroying their own life out for revenge. But in the end, it's a guy with one tone who you cannot sympathise with, who essentially whines the entire time and pushes away all the people who tried to help him. Which, there is a place in that kind of story for a character and a protagonist to do that. I fervently believe this, just not the way this game is presenting it. And Clara, that we've just seen just then, I was hoping was going to be some kind of love interest to bring him back to... But it's almost like a father-daughter relationship from what I've seen, and admittedly I haven't seen a lot because I've been skipping a lot of it. I find, as I've mentioned, aspects of this game to be very, very lacking. Oh, okay. So as I was saying, sandbox games are a product of your experience with them. This is what I believe. For instance, I played Sleeping Dogs last year and I loved it because it did certain things completely different to any other games I'd played at that time in Sandbox, and it really made me appreciate the difference. It was hammy, it was fun. I like this music, by the way. Very tuneful. Oh, here we go. So we need to get on this. But even then, Sleeping Dogs, in parts, was that same kind of collaboration of elements that make up these kind of games. There's quite a lot of environmental traversal on this as well, I was surprised. But games that don't have that hook, like Red Dead Redemption with its setting, and it's, you know, nobody'd really done a Western game of that calibre. Can't climb over barbed wire. So, let's go around. Is there anything I can mantle on? Aha! No? Damn it. Oh, here we go. This looks promising. But sandbox games that do the same thing are much harder for me to forgive. Like a first-person shooter, how long have we been shooting things in first-person shooters? We've been doing it for a long time, since bloody Wolfenstein. We've done it in every locale imaginable. But somehow, it doesn't really grate on us because it's constantly changing, it's constantly mixing up the shooting aspects of it. Sure, some don't do a great job, some do better than others, but it's mixed up enough that you never really realise that you're doing the same thing all the time. Okay, we need to... See the white line on the floor? That indicates that there's a lockbox we need to hack to unlock to get to where we need to be, which is something that you do for the CTOS towers, so I'm quite familiar with this mechanic. And normally it involves using a camera. And because there's a really cool feature of this game where you can essentially hack into any camera feed and use it for your own nefarious needs, which I'm hoping I'll be able to show you. Here we go. So there's a camera. I'm now in this camera, and from this I can then proceed to either go to another camera or I can mess with things in the environment, and it's used for stealth, it's used for combat, it's used for a variety of really interesting things that I would love in a better game. But there's the door being unlocked. But when it comes to sandbox titles, how many times have you drove around a city? I'm guessing at this point, if you've been playing games for a while, you've drove around a lot of cities. It's just the way it is. What am I doing? At this point, we have drove around all the cities. We've drove around futuristic cities, we've drove on Mars, we've drove in towns. Does it want me to blow this up? Oh yeah, cool. We've done all of it. And at some point you realise, and I did very early on when I was playing this game, that once I'd got past all the hacking and all the interesting features that it brought to the table, I was driving towards a waypoint in a city that could have been in any sandbox game ever, to go to some guy's glowing circle to pick up a mission to then complete a miscellaneous task.
You look for an entrance.
And that's all they are. That's all they ever are. Every single time. And the key of a truly great one is that you don't notice that that's what they are because of either the really good writing, the story direction, the activities they have you doing that take you out of it and just put you into a fun mood or a fun mode, instead of thinking, but what does this achieve? You know, this is pointless. I've got to be careful here. If I fall off here, I'll die. So that's the first one down anyhow. And it's... See if we can do this. It's all that bearing on... No, we can't. I was hoping he was going to jump. Yeah, this is not Assassin's Creed, folks. Although it does have some interesting traversal stuff, but... It's not for me anymore. And I think your enjoyment of this game is going to be based on two things. It's how much you can put up with a formula that really hasn't changed since the early 2000s. It's only got more refined, more specific. And how much hype did you have going into this game? Checkpoints seem pretty good. I can't complain about those. They seem to really work nicely for this. Because normally in this... Shut the fuck up, guys. I'm trying to... No, you can't even skip shit. Can you? No.
Underwater.
He does have a really cool walk, though. Watch this. Hey. 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 Ooh. Whoa. Yay. Hey. It's my favourite way to get around. It makes it look like I've got a clubbed foot. Like, I'm gonna get you, crafty bastards. I'm finding a lot of these things. I don't really care about them. But how much did you buy into the hype of the game? It all depends on, I suppose, what kind of person you are. But it's just... In the famous words of Carl Urban from The Chronicles of Riddick, it is not enough! To which he says to, is it Thandie Newton? It isn't. It isn't enough. And what this game really reminds me of is everything I'm tired about in Assassin's Creed. And it translates into this title. Can I make this move? Like earlier on, when I was playing it, I was climbing towers that I had to interact with, which would unveil parts of the map. Does that sound familiar to anybody? Like, Ubisoft at this point have got themselves into this rut of perceived quality. I'm not too sure what it wants me to mess with here. Obviously I need to get onto the roof. What does that do? Ha ha ha! Is this gonna... This might be it. And what I mean by this perceived rut of quality is Ubisoft used to be a pretty shitty developer. They were never great. They were good, they weren't great. They brought such classics as Buck Bumble and Rogue Spear. And now they're this AAA studio, and as soon as they've got the goose that laid the golden egg, they've hauled that motherfucker out that its tits are literally bleeding out its ass at this point, poor thing. And a lot of these elements that make their games good are now ubiquitous across their games. And the problem with this is it's market saturated. Can I make that, do you think? Yes, I can. The problem with market saturation is nothing feels original. And at this point, do we really need 2 Assassin's Creed this year? Really? And that's coming from somebody whose faith was restored by Black Flag, but still could do with a couple of years break, because haven't we had enough of running around as some like anonymous hooded twat doing miscellaneous tasks in different timelines? I know I have. When in doubt, use the cameras. Oh, there you go. So there is some interesting puzzle aspects to this and some interesting traversal. It's just we've done it all before. And the hook on a sandbox game, for me personally, is always the story. It lives and dies by its story. The reason why GTA is so successful is actually not because of its story, it's because of its writing. When you break down and analyse the foundations of GTA's story, they've essentially told the same thing every single game. It's the exact same kind of story. It's a story that's just all the way through culture, through every single piece of art ever made, you know. There are no original stories. They're all based off the same elements. They just get shook up a little bit, and the scenery changes, you know, the fashion changes, that kind of thing. Technology advances. But they're all essentially the same thing. But it's the writing and the characters that keep you hooked in GTA. And that's exactly what this game is missing for me at this point. And I don't really have a leg to stand on because I've already told you that I've been skipping a lot of the cutscenes, so maybe that character and that emotional depth does progress and does become something that might be worth listening to. But when a game puts you off listening to its cutscenes and makes you want to skip its narrative, there's a fundamental problem there, and it might just be me. But that's the joy of these balls deeps. These are my
Almost there.
first thoughts and feelings of these
Morning, can you
games.
Get us online?
In my circle, this is the
You know,
final
somebody
adventure.
probably loves this game. It's probably their favourite game ever, but it's all relative to what
Do you
you've
actually
played.
have a hacker card?
Get us inside. Maybe I'll show it to you someday.
I'm working on it.
And it all depends on your preference as well. Something this game does a lot, which is a little bit irritating, is this. So I've come down here to do this objective. Now I'm stuck. The only way to get out is to jump in this water and then find a ladder, or climb back up on these forklifts and go back the way I came. You would think that the gates would maybe open, or maybe be mantleable, but instead there's this. It's this conceit in this game. All the time there's these handy forklifts that allow you to climb over fences with barbed wire, because you can't traverse barbed wire. But if you do this, now you can. And it's just... I know it's pedantic, guys, but, like, why couldn't this gate have just unlocked when I did the objective? You know, it was in a locked state before you interact with it, then it was in an unlocked state. Do we really care so much about continuity? And if you look, I'm stuck again. So I have to... And it's a cohesion with level design that lacks in all open world games. When you build something this big with this much scope and this much happening, you can't hit and, you know, find all the issues with it. When you have a strictly linear game that leads you through a well designed, well thought out, every single beat of your path has been, you know, lulled over and perfected. Usually level design can be fluent and it can work, it can look back on itself, and it can
Generators
be
are back
really
there.
good.
I'll just hack the gate.
Okay. You'll never get that in sandbox games because it contradicts the very nature of what they are. And I don't think it's a criticism of them, because I think the ambition behind them is some of the biggest driving forces in gaming. Is that going to reveal a camera, do you think? Yeah. That happens a lot, so this is actually a decent mission to give you an insight that you're not going to be driving all the time, at least. You will do other things. There is depth here. There is this hook of hacking and using the hacking with, you know, in conjunction with the environment. It's kind of cool. But I would prefer, once again, this is me and my preferences, if this was like a Splinter Cell, where they were isolated levels that you went into that were designed in such a way that the developers could completely control the experience and make every single moment amazing. And they can't do that. They just don't have the manpower in these kind of games. So it's never going to be a thing. Right, can that crane come... Oh, it goes up. So I want it to come down. But what I've been doing is, because I got so bored so quickly with the main missions and altogether just not very happy with playing the game, I decided to do the CTOS towers and... Ooh. Oh, here we go. And the hideouts. And I've been having a little bit of fun with them. I don't particularly like the way that when somebody calls in reinforcements, it means that there's going to be a squadron of dudes in cars. And on this game, when people get out of cars with automatic weapons, they can kill you in an instant. It's kind of weird. You can do this awesome, amazing heist, and then suddenly a car pulls up and guns you down like fucking Willem Dafoe in Platoon. It's pretty brutal. The game also seems pretty long too. And I don't know if that's going to be a benefit or a detriment.
I just heard the system come back online.
Wait for me.
Why? It's perfectly safe. Nobody's been inside for years.
Because I want to see your face when the door opens.
Ah. See, that's a little bit... a little less father-daughterly. It's also a little... full force, dude. Have you ever heard of being smooth, you bastard? Which obviously shows there's probably more depth to these characters than what I've seen. Hang on a second here. We're going to get an impromptu sex scene on these mattresses. Come on, Ubisoft. You know you want to. Then again, it's pretty filthy. Then again, she's covered in tattoos, which generally means she's quite adventurous. Here I go with those stereotypes to live by. It has to be said, though, coming from a man's perspective and a libido that is quite high and unhealthy at times. There's something about a tattooed girl that... I don't know what it is. It must be the complete antithesis of the wide-eyed, you know, Christian schoolgirl appeal What the hell's happening? Why is he walking all suave? Am I about to get shot dead? No? This music's all mysterious and shit. Oh wow. Is this going to be like our headquarters? We're going to build an army, rebel against it, do a fire sale. It's going to be.
I was right. DedSec would make good use of this.
$48,000 a year as a tattoo artist. That seems pretty cool.
No
Expired
one can know
visa,
about
shit.
this. At least until after I'm done with it.
Of course.
She walks like a dude.
Help me get her online.
Okay. But just because what I've shared with you, of my opinion, guys, could be viewed as overtly negative, there is some quality here. It's a high production game. There is a lot of interesting stuff if it's your thing and if you're in the mood for it. I just don't like the size of his head. Why does his head look so damn big? I saw a comparison on a website that she looked a little bit like Christy Mack. I assume that's the haircut thing. If you didn't know, Christy Mack recently was put in hospital by her significant other, who is an MMA fighter, and a fucking cowardly one at
By
that.
design, it's untraceable, unhackable.
Yet here we are.
Swear to
back
God,
at
man,
it.
anybody that raises a hand to a woman deserves to be crucified. No, I won't show any fucking mercy for those
Where
people.
the address comes from.
Let me see. What's special about it?
It's just a lead, that's all.
Look at his head! His head looks so huge!
How did they
Dude, fix your
do this?
fucking face!
This is pretty well hidden. Doesn't leave any doors open.
Oh, really?
It looks like it's coming from the Rossi Freeman district.
I wonder if her tattoos look better on the Xbox One or the
Western
PS4.
territory.
But for all its technological leaps and its hacker ethos and everything,
Let's get a peek inside.
it's so reminiscent of every other
No.
of this kind of game I've ever played. Like, of all the people to be going against, we're going to go to a bunch of gangbangers in a building site probably, because this game is
I'll have you up and
essentially
running before you
sneak into the building sites of the game. Which I've never understood. Building sites were cool in like '98. Come on, folks. We're past building sites at this point. Can't we at least do ice rings or, you know, hockey stadiums, anything else? But there is the mission. We'll get some experience. I'll show you the... There you go, 500 experience, and I'll show you the skill trees. Skill tree is brought up, I think, by the... Is it the D-pad? Here you go. He accesses his smartphone. So on here we have progression, which you have to use... I don't... This is weird, this. So when you bring this up using the D-pad, you then have to use the right analog to traverse it. I'm not even kidding. Such a weird choice. So in progression, it's showing you how much of the game I've done, which is to say not a lot. And if you go over here, it shows you what you've done. I've done 2 crimes detected, 2 fixer contracts, which were boring, drive through the fucking waypoint races that nobody likes, stop doing them in games. 7 hideouts, none of these. I've found all the CTOS towers. I've done no online hacking because it doesn't interest me at all. And I've done 5 of Act 2's 15 main missions. So pretty simple, pretty standard stuff. Quite a lot to dig your teeth into if that's what you want. And then the skills, and this is where I don't like this game. So the thing with me is I love depth. I appreciate simplicity, but for me, depth is where my heart lies. And whenever I see a skill tree, I want to see commitment, I want to see sacrifice, and I want to see depth. And this here strikes me as the complete opposite of everything I just said. There is nothing here where you have to sacrifice points over anything else. There is nothing here where if you focus down one line you get really good at one thing but are terrible at something else. It is essentially be everything you want, zero repercussions, casualized bullshit, and I hate it. There is nothing in this worth purchasing. That is the reason why I have 10 points and I don't care about picking them, because I've already picked the ones I wanted, and in fact I picked the skills I thought were interesting at the very beginning of the game. And once again, if you have a skill tree that doesn't want me to actively seek the skills in it, you have fundamentally failed at making it interesting, and I believe that this game has. Some of the more interesting stuff involved the hacking, but for a game that's sold on hacking, you do a very small amount of it. You know, you do more time sneaking, you do more time driving, you do more time in conversations. The hacking is something you can completely ignore should you choose to. So at some points, it's like redundancy itself. And it makes me really sad because I was super stoked at that. And when I look at that and I compare it to something like the Sphere Grid, which, funnily enough, is a simplified version of a Final Fantasy skill system, it makes this, you know, it makes this look like Paris Hilton compared to, you know, a vision of a goddess. And as we all know, she is scumbaggery embodied. But yeah, bad skill tree. Then you have your stats, you have your DedSec stuff, you have all the other stuff, the leaderboards, like anyone really cares. I assume these are the minigames, I'm just not interested at all. And then, that's pretty much Watch Dogs. Isn't it funny how he made the fleeting gesture towards her and she didn't even acknowledge it? She's either playing hard to get or it's just one of those threads that never really goes anywhere. Just a horny writer in one day decided to put something racy in. I'm gonna see your damn face, bitch. Propping on my nutsack. Holla. Okay, can I get out of here? And I believe... Oh. So we're gonna have to do this every time we come to this base, are we? Is this masking a loading screen, do we think?
I shouldn't.
Oh, maybe not.
Trust is dangerous. But without her, I'd be nowhere.
Well, listen to him.
She's the closest I have to a friend right now.
This is the diary of a 14-year-old emo girl who's just discovered darker music. She's my only friend. What is happening? Oh, here we go. God, I hate that smug walk. Stop being so smug, you emo bitch. But this is Watch Dogs. I would love to tell you that it's everything that it was proposed as, that it's as exciting as those snippets at E3 was made to make it look. It isn't. What it is a perfectly capable sandbox game that your enjoyment is going to be in direct comparison to how many of these you've played. If you're fatigued like I am with them, then you probably won't enjoy it too much. But if you're hungry for another fix after GTA 5, then you could probably find a lot of things to like in this game. Thank you very much for watching, and you take care now.